Good evening and welcome to Fleece TV, this rather drizzly Wednesday evening, and you join us this evening in the Master's Chamber, and this is the oldest part of the Fleece Inn, built around 1400. So this lovely panel here, original panel from around that time, and this was directly above what is now the gents' loo, but would have been the buttery at that time, where the master would keep his butts of salted and preserved meats and vegetables and fruits, etc., adjacent to what would have been the grand or great hall, which would have been 2 stories in height, which is now the pewter room, which had an extra story put in there at around 1500, because they obviously were busy making extra family members and needed to expand. So this would have not had a staircase up to it, it would have actually had a ladder, and the original hole for the medieval ladder was discovered back when we had the fire, and the architect who was doing the research work found said ladder. Anyway, there you go. That's the Fleece history for tonight. Now, we've had a couple of photographs from one of our home correspondents. The first one is a bit sheepish. This is my lovely daughter, Madeline, came over earlier, and we had a little walkette, a socially distanced walkette, around Back Lane with the doggy, and saw this sheep. Now, I'm not sure whether this is what would I call it, an aspiration for dogs or a nightmare for sheep, but the sheep was definitely looking a bit sheepish there. Dogs roaming free probably wouldn't be what that sheep wanted. So anyway, today, a little earlier on, I was joined by my friend John Moores, who's also a regular here at the Fleece Inn, and he has a particular interest and hobby which he's going to share with us now. Well, good afternoon, and we're joined today by my good friend and regular here at the Fleece Inn, John Moores, who you can see is on his way, perhaps on his way to work at some point, maybe. We'll see what... John, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, and then just what you do at the railway, a little bit about the railway, that sort of thing?
Well, thank you, Nigel, for asking me along. I've got a few minutes, but I've got a train to catch eventually. Now, my job at the Great Western Railway, or the Gloucestershire and Warwickshire Railway as we're known, is a station assistant, where I help out the station master, deal with all the queries from the passengers, help disabled people on and off the train, and do stewarding as well, serving drinks to passengers and so on. Yeah. So it's quite a considerable breadth of job I have. You
have been known to keep me under control, actually, or at least attempt to yes. Keep me under control on the Cheltenham train a while ago.
Yes.
So, how long ago was it that you sort of got involved with it?
About 4 years ago now, I went along to a volunteers meeting, because the railway itself is virtually all run by volunteers. We have well over 800 volunteers, of which we see probably 200 to 300 on a regular basis, and 6 paid members of staff, and only 2 of those are full-time. Unlike some of the railways like Severn Valley, North Yorkshire Railway, where most of the staff are paid.
Wow. Okay. How long's the railway been going since?
Well, the original railway was built in the early 1900s by the Great Western Railway, who created a line from Snow Hill Station in Birmingham through to Stratford upon Avon, then through to Honeybourne, through to Toddington, Winchcombe, and linked up with the main line in Cheltenham. And the Great Western Railway built it because they originally were running along Midland Railway tracks and paying a fee for every train they used.
Yeah.
And the railway itself actually closed in 1968, and it wasn't because of the beaching cuts. They had a substantial derailment quite close to Winchcombe, and there was so much damage done that they decided not to repair it but to close it down altogether.
And when was it reopened in its present format?
In the 1980s, by a group of enthusiasts who got together and started off from Toddington. They put down about a half a mile of track, and ever since it's grown exponentially now.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, we actually completed the line up to Broadway. So we run from Broadway all the way down to Cheltenham Racecourse, and we're not linked up to the main line at either end. And in fact, all our engines, coaches and things like that are transported by road, because along with a lot of the other railway organisations, they find it much cheaper and convenient to move things by road rather than by rail.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
What sort of number of people does, or before this present situation, what sort of numbers of?
Well, last year we had about 125,000 passengers, which is a little bit down on the previous year when we opened Broadway, because a lot of people came along just to see
Just to
what
have a
we'd
look.
done.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
But yes, 130,000 passengers a year.
And I know that we commissioned the train for the Asparagus Express a few years ago. But in terms of events, are there a lot of events would normally go on?
Oh, very much so. We have a steam gala, a diesel gala, we have wartime in the Cotswolds, we have a food and drink fair as well. So we fill it out with lots of different events, and of course at Christmas then we have our Santa specials, which is very popular with the youngsters.
And what's happened this year with the railway itself and with the events and so forth?
Yeah, unfortunately, because the layout of our carriages, we can't get people to sort of keep away from each other. So at the moment we're completely closed down, but when we do eventually open, we hope in the not too distant future, then we've got a potential problem in trying keeping people apart.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about future developments for the railway? What are the outside of reopening in this present situation? What are the other potential developments and challenges ahead?
Well, it would be nice to link the railway up from Broadway to Honeybourne. The track bed is still there, and I dare say a few people do walk that track bed. And then going in the other direction, if we took the railway down on its original route into Cheltenham, we would have to knock down Waitrose, which I don't think the good people of Cheltenham would be very happy about. It all comes down to money, basically, because it's not cheap to build a railway from scratch in this day and age.
Okay. Well, John, thank you for joining us. I'm not sure I've got any more questions. You're getting your clock out there.
I think, yeah, there's a train due in, so if you will excuse me, I've just got to dispatch this one.
Certainly. Thank you very much for joining. We don't want to make the trains late. Thanks,
Right.
John. Thank you.
Okay, fire away.
Thank you very much.
Well, welcome back. I love that GWSR, and but I'll tell you what, it does keep me in line. When on the odd occasion I may have been on there, having been racing and had a beverage or two in Mr. Moses there, and a stickler for time as well, as you can see. So thanks, John. And the camera work was amazing there, wasn't it? Despite the lack of our technical director, who was working elsewhere today. So yeah, well, perhaps it might have been a little bit wobbly, but thanks very much again, John, for joining us. And you can now see the view from the master's bedroom in Fleece Inn. These lovely flowers were brought for Tash by her to London from her allotment. Aren't they gorgeous? And you can see over to the church through the treeage. Not too shoddy really. And but this isn't Fleece TV. It's a TV in the Fleece. Just saying. And on that amusing note, it's time for Julian's joke.
Hey, when this coronavirus is over, I'm thinking of going to Scotland for a visit, but I'm not sure where to go. Still, I've got plenty of time to mull it over.
one of a new crop from Jules of Amusing Wonderment. Thanks, Jules, for sending those through to us. So we've had a few people are joining us tonight. Jean Porter said, "Evening, lovely peeps." I don't know if she meant evening, lovely sheeps after seeing that picture earlier. Helen's with us. Helen, Spike and Pam from Clown Manor. I can't say that. Jan, hi, how are you? How are you, lovely? And Eleanor and Paulette and Sue are here. And Shirley and Jan, very dapper. Mr. Moore, indeed. I do concur, Jan, that Mr. Moore's looking very dapper indeed. Sue says, "Love that shirt." That's my shirt, not his shirt. That's my shirt. So thank you all for sending your comments. Just another little picture here. If you've been busying yourself during lockdown, we all have done different things, and this rather lovely picture of rose petals was again another gem from my lovely daughter Madeline, who's getting married, fingers crossed, in September this year, and all being well, etc. with stuff as it is. And this gathering rose petals from her garden, or from her actually from her fiance's Nan's garden, and then drying them out to use as confetti on her wedding day. So I think that's very good, very frugal, and very lovely thing to do, Mads, if you don't mind me saying. So we're going to now. We've got a piece of music coming up now, which is somewhat excellent, I think, by our friend Jude Rees. Now, Jude has played as part of Green Matthews, who are a three-piece who do a thing called A Brief History of Music, or A Brief History of Christmas, and I've played here three times. They're fantastic musicianers. And here she's showing her extraordinary talents on some medieval instruments, 2 soprano and 2 alto shawms. If you don't know what a shawm is, you're going to see it in a mo, made by a chap called Eric Mulder, as it goes. And I'll be talking to Jude about various instruments in another show. But tonight she's going to entertain us with this great piece she's put together. It was written back sometime by a chap called Adrian Wildert, who wrote it during his life, which he was alive 1490 to 1562. Would you believe? That is, blimey, that is a while ago. This place was about 150 years old at the time he wrote it. And it's called Vecchi Letros, I believe. So if you want to catch up with Jude Rees, she does loads of stuff in her own right. She's got a Facebook page and a YouTube thingy-flip. And so yeah, Jude Rees. But here she is, entertaining us with Vecchi Letros. But for now, good night from Fleece TV.